The text came at 5:30 p.m. Staying at Jenna's tonight. Love you. I smiled at my phone, stirring pasta sauce that bubbled on the stove. Maya was 16, responsible, always checked in. I trusted her completely. At 6:03, everything changed. The evening news played in the background while I set the table. The anchor's voice cut through my thoughts. Breaking news from Riverton docks. Police are investigating suspicious activity at a waterfront warehouse. Several teenagers were seen fleeing the scene. I glanced up. My heart stopped. The screen showed a still image of a frightened girl outside a gray warehouse. Dark braids. That exact shade of brown jacket. The silver necklace I'd given her for her birthday. Maya. My daughter's face filled the television screen. The anchor continued, authorities are seeking these witnesses for questioning in connection with an ongoing investigation. My phone slipped from my hands, clattering against the tile floor. Heat flooded through me, betrayal mixing with pure terror. My fingers shook as I grabbed my phone and dialed her number. Straight to voicemail. The news anchor gave a hotline number. Anyone with information, please call. I already had a starting point. Jenna. Jenna lived 3 blocks away in a gray apartment building that always smelled like cigarettes. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my breath coming in short gasps. My mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. I pounded on apartment 2B. Jenna's mother answered, looking annoyed until she saw my face. Where's Jenna? I demanded. In her room. Why? I pushed past her. Jenna sat on her bed, scrolling through her phone. Her eyes went wide when she saw me. Where's Maya? I asked. I don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me. She said she was staying here. Jenna's face flushed. She never came by. I swear. Her story stumbled. Her eyes looked glassy, unfocused. I scanned the room and froze. A damp jacket hung over her desk chair. Navy blue with a white stripe down the sleeve. Maya's jacket. The one she'd worn this morning. You're lying, I said quietly. Jenna's mother gasped behind me. My phone buzzed. A notification flashed across the screen. Maya's location sharing, which I'd forgotten was still active, briefly showed a pin near the Harbor District. Then it vanished. I drove home in a daze, questions spinning through my mind. Someone had picked Maya up. But who? And why had she lied about going to Jenna's? Back home, I pulled up my doorbell camera footage. I scrolled backward through the afternoon, watching neighbors pass, delivery trucks, nothing unusual. Then I saw it. At 4:47 p.m., a dark SUV idled at the curb. Maya walked out of our house at 4:52, glanced back once, then climbed into the passenger seat. The vehicle pulled away slowly. Not a rideshare. She'd told me she was taking an Uber to Jenna's house. I replayed the footage 5 times, zooming in as much as the grainy video allowed. The license plate was half blocked by a streetlight shadow. But something else caught my attention. A chrome emblem on the SUV's grille. Small but distinct. An owl, wings spread, catching the late afternoon sun. I screenshot the image and stared at it. Who drove a car with an owl emblem? It wasn't a standard manufacturer logo. My hands trembled as I saved the image to my phone. This was a clue, a real lead. But what did it mean? I called Colin, my ex-husband and Maya's father. He arrived 20 minutes later, his face tight with concern that quickly shifted to dismissal. You're overreacting, he said, standing in my kitchen. Teenagers lie. She's probably just at some party. She was on the news, Colin. At the docks. There's an investigation. He waved his hand. Don't make a scene. You'll embarrass her. His calm bordered on gaslighting, that familiar tone that made me question my own judgment. But I'd learned to trust my instincts. I watched him carefully. His hand trembled as he reached for his coffee cup. Despite his words, he was terrified. "I'm calling the police," I said. "Nora, wait." I dialed anyway. The dispatcher connected me to Detective Salazar, who listened patiently to my story. "We're aware of activity at the Riverton docks," he said. "But resources are stretched thin tonight. Has your daughter contacted you?" "No. Her phone goes straight to voicemail." "I'll make a note. If she doesn't return by morning, file a formal missing persons report." Morning felt like a lifetime away. I hung up, fury building in my chest. Colin watched me with careful eyes. My sister Priya arrived within the hour. She worked as a data analyst for a tech company, and her mind processed information like a computer. I showed her the news footage. "Let me work," she said, opening her laptop. She cross-checked the newscast still image against social media posts, using facial recognition tools and location tags. I paced behind her, unable to sit still. "Found something," Priya said after 30 minutes. "Look at this." She pulled up Instagram photos tagged near the docks. Several showed the same graffiti on a warehouse wall. And in multiple posts, the owl icon appeared, small tags spray-painted near doorways or printed on flyers visible in the background. "It's a symbol," Priya said. "Some kind of branding." She kept digging. "These posts are all connected to parties at Pier 7. Underground events." Then she gasped. "Nora, look at this." A photo posted 10 minutes ago. A blurry shot of a crowded room. In the bottom corner, a wrist wearing a distinctive charm bracelet. 3 silver dolphins and a blue glass bead. Maya's bracelet. The one her grandmother had given her before she died. My daughter was still at Pier 7. I drove to Pier 7 with my heart hammering against my ribs. The warehouse loomed against the darkening sky, its windows dark except for flashes of colored light. Music thumped faintly inside, bass vibrating through the ground. A security guard stood at the entrance, arms crossed over his broad chest. "Private event," he said before I could speak. "My daughter's in there. I need to find her. No one gets in without an invitation." I tried to push past him. He blocked me easily. "Ma'am, I'll call the police if you don't leave." Desperation clawed at my throat. I looked up at the warehouse windows. On the second floor, a shadow moved across the glass. A silhouette with braids. Maya. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo, zooming in as much as possible. The figure turned, and for a second, I saw her profile clearly. A hand clamped down on my shoulder. Hard. I spun around. It wasn't the guard. A man in his 30s stood behind me. Expensive camera hanging from his neck. Dark hair, sharp features, eyes that assessed me too quickly. "Can I help you?" he asked smoothly. "Who are you?" "Owen Hale. I'm a photographer." "You seem upset." "My daughter's inside. I saw her in the window." His expression shifted slightly. "What's her name?" "Maya Bennett." Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. He knew her name too quickly, reacted before I'd given enough information. "She's probably fine," he said carefully. "Lots of kids at these events." "She's with her friend Tessa, right?" I hadn't mentioned Tessa. I'd never said anything about Maya's friends except Jenna. My skin prickled with warning. "How do you know Tessa?" His phone buzzed. He glanced down and I caught a glimpse of the screen. A notification with the owl symbol, bright against the dark background. Owen pocketed his phone quickly. "Look, you should go home. These things get complicated when parents show up. You'll embarrass her." "I'm not leaving without my daughter." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Go home, Mrs. Bennett." He walked away before I could respond, disappearing around the side of the warehouse. I drove back to Jenna's apartment. This time, I didn't knock politely. Jenna opened the door and tried to close it, but I pushed inside. Tell me the truth right now, or I'm calling the police and telling them you helped kidnap my daughter. Jenna's face crumpled. I didn't kidnap anyone. Then tell me what's happening. She collapsed onto her couch, tears streaming down her face. There's this crew. They recruit girls for private shoots. Modeling stuff. They promise easy money. My stomach turned. Who recruits them? I don't know names. They use burner numbers. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands. There's this contact saved as Night Owl. She showed me. A number with no other information. I copied it into my phone and dialed. It rang twice, then a pre-recorded message answered. A man's voice, distorted slightly. Drop location moved. Wait for further instructions. The line went dead. I stared at Jenna. Where were they supposed to go? I don't know. Everything changes fast. They use apps that delete messages. Show me. Priya arrived and took Jenna's phone. She worked through the apps, recovering deleted data with tools I didn't understand. There, she said, pointing at the screen. An invite-only chat. Messages vanish within minutes after posting. The chat history was sparse, but Priya pulled up cached data. Posts about rides, times, vague locations. A pinned note at the top of the chat read, "Rides to the Harbor Lantern, 9 p.m. That's a bar, Jenna whispered. Near the docks. Priya kept digging through the deleted messages. Look at this. The admin handle is Heart FDN. Hart? I repeated. Like the principal? Edwin Hart runs Riverton High, Priya confirmed. And he has a school foundation. She pulled up the foundation's public website. Scholarships, booster programs, community outreach. All looked legitimate. This can't be coincidence, I said. Maybe it's hacked, Priya suggested. Or maybe he's involved. I grabbed my keys. I'm going to the school. Nora, it's 8 at night. Then I'll go to his house. I found Edwin Hart's address through the school directory. He lived in a neat suburban house with a perfectly maintained lawn. Lights glowed warmly through the windows. I rang the doorbell. He answered in casual clothes, surprise crossing his face when he saw me. Mrs. Bennett? Is everything all right? We need to talk about Hart FDN. His expression shifted to confusion. My foundation? What about it? Your account is being used to organize parties where underage girls are recruited. My daughter is missing. His face went pale. That's impossible. I managed that account personally. Then explain this. I showed him screenshots Priya had sent me. He stared at the images, his hands shaking. Someone must have hacked it. I swear, I don't know anything about parties. His defensiveness felt odd, too sharp. I didn't fully believe him. I need to see your attendance records. For Maya Bennett. Today. I can't access those from home. Then we're going to the school. Now. At Riverton High, Hart unlocked his office and pulled up the system. Maya's attendance record showed an early dismissal at 2:15 p.m. Medical appointment. I never signed that, I said. Hart frowned. It has a teacher's initials. Mrs. Kowalski. Call her. He did. Mrs. Kowalski answered, confused. I never wrote a pass for Maya Bennett. The next morning, I cornered Sophie, the office aide, before school started. She was a college student working part-time, usually cheerful. Today she looked terrified. Sophie, I need to know who processed Maya's dismissal slip yesterday. Her eyes filled with tears. Please don't get me in trouble. Just tell me the truth. She glanced around the empty hallway. Someone threatened me. Said they'd get me fired if I didn't process certain slips without verifying them. Who threatened you? She pulled out her phone and showed me a text thread. Messages from an unknown number, each stamped with the small owl icon. Promises of money. Threats if she refused. They paid me, Sophie whispered. $200 per slip. I needed the money for tuition. How many slips did you process? Maybe 10. Over the past month. My hands clenched into fists. This was organized, systematic. Do you know who's behind it? Sophie's voice dropped to barely a whisper. The texts mentioned a name once. Victor Hale. They all meet at his place. Where? The Harbor Lantern. He owns it. The Harbor Lantern sat at the edge of the docks, a weathered building with neon signs advertising cheap beer. I pushed through the door into dim lighting and the smell of stale alcohol. A man behind the bar looked up. Tall, expensive suit that didn't match the dive bar atmosphere. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Can I help you? Are you Victor Hale? I am. And you are? Nora Bennett. I'm looking for my daughter, Maya. His expression remained pleasant. I don't know any Maya. Sorry. I stepped closer to the bar. She was at Pier 7 last night. Your brother Owen was there. Owen's a photographer. He goes to lots of places. With underage girls? Victor's smile tightened. I think you should leave. I glanced past him at the cluttered back area. Crates, boxes, cleaning supplies. Something blue caught my eye. Denim fabric, stuffed under a crate. Maya's jacket. The one from Jenna's apartment. I'd recognize that white stripe anywhere. I moved toward it. A bouncer appeared from nowhere, blocking my path. Victor picked up his phone. I'm calling the police. You're trespassing and harassing me. Detective Salazar arrived 10 minutes later. Victor met him at the door, his voice dripping with false concern. This woman broke into my bar, made accusations, refused to leave. That's not true, I said. My daughter's jacket is behind the bar. She's missing. Salazar looked between us. Mrs. Bennett, step outside with me. On the sidewalk, I showed him everything. The news footage, the owl symbol, the connection to Owen Hale, the jacket I'd seen. I can't seize property without a warrant, Salazar said quietly. But I believe you. He walked back inside. I watched through the window as he spoke with Victor. Salazar's eyes swept across the bar, noting details. When he returned, he had a piece of paper tucked in his jacket. Employee schedule, he said softly. Saw it on the wall. As we stood there, my phone buzzed. News alert. Update on Riverton Docks investigation. Police seek teenagers as potential witnesses, not suspects. The article included a wider shot of the warehouse. I zoomed in. Maya's face was clearer now. And visible on her cheek was a dark bruise. Someone had hurt my daughter. I confronted Colin at his apartment. He opened the door looking exhausted. We need to talk about Owen Hale. His face went white. How do you know that name? You know him? Colin sank onto his couch. Last summer. The street fair downtown. Owen was there with a camera, said he did portrait photography. Maya was interested. I introduced them. Rage burned through me. You introduced our daughter to that man? He seemed professional. I didn't know. Didn't know what? That he grooms teenage girls? Colin's hands shook. He gave me his studio address. Said Maya could come by for a portfolio shoot. Where? He found the business card in his wallet. An address in the industrial district, not far from the docks. I drove there immediately. The studio was a converted loft above an auto repair shop. The door was unlocked. Inside, the space had been cleared out recently. Dust patterns on the floor showed where equipment had stood. But one thing remained. Pinned to the wall was a photo of the owl logo, printed large. And clipped to it was a peer access badge with Owen's photo. Priya met me at the studio and photographed everything. The badge, the logo, the layout. She called a contact at the Port Authority. That badge gives access to restricted peer areas, she reported. Security logs show it's been used for late-night entries over the past 2 weeks. She pulled up the entry times on her laptop. They matched perfectly with the party chat timestamps from Jenna's phone. Owen's been running these events, I said. Using his badge to access warehouses. Priya nodded. And look at this. She showed me her screen. Financial records she'd somehow accessed. The Harbor Lantern made a payment last week to an account called Heart Foundation LLC. $5,000. The principal's foundation? Maybe. Or someone using that name. She kept searching. The foundation's registered agent is listed as M. Keene. Who's that? Let me find out. Within an hour, Priya had an address. Marla Keene lived in a modest house across town. According to public records, she worked as a bookkeeper and volunteered with school booster clubs. Time to pay her a visit. Marla Keene answered her door with a friendly smile that faded when she saw my face. I need to talk about the Heart Foundation, I said. I'm just the bookkeeper. You processed a payment from Victor Hale's bar. $5,000. Her smile disappeared completely. I don't discuss client finances. I showed her the evidence Priya had compiled. The owl symbol, the parties, Maya's photo, the timeline. Underage girls are being exploited. You're helping launder money. Marla's face crumpled. I didn't know. I swear, I thought it was legitimate sponsorship money. Sponsorship for what? Event security. Principal Hart said the foundation needed to hire security for school functions. She grabbed a folder from her desk. I have the contract. She showed me paperwork. A standard service agreement between the Hart Foundation and someone named Evan Hale for security consultation services. Another Hale. The signature was different from Victor's driver's license photo I'd found online. This had to be Owen using an alias. Can I take this? I asked. You should. I want nothing to do with this anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Priya. New party post. Live now. Warehouse 5. I see Maya's bracelet. I called Detective Salazar immediately. He agreed to organize a response team. We'll approach quietly, he said. I can't let you come. She's my daughter. Which is exactly why you shouldn't be there. But, he paused. You can ride in the last vehicle. You stay in the car. Doors locked. Understood. I agreed, though we both knew I'd do whatever necessary. The drive to Warehouse 5 felt endless. 4 unmarked police cars, moving through the dark streets near the docks. We parked a block away. Through the windshield, I watched figures moving in the shadows. Owen Hale appeared, leading a group of girls toward a back stairwell. I couldn't see faces clearly, but my heart recognized the movements. One of them was Maya. Salazar raised his radio. All units move. A siren wailed. Too loud, too early. Someone had activated it accidentally. The figures scattered. Owen bolted toward the waterfront. Victor appeared from nowhere, hustling people through a side alley. I threw open my car door. Coldwater Road. I heard them say it. A door slammed nearby. An engine roared to life. I ran toward the sound and caught a glimpse of a white van peeling away from the loading dock, heading east. I pulled out my phone and called Priya. White van leaving Warehouse 5, heading toward Coldwater Road. On it, she said. I turned back to find Salazar. Officers were containing the scene, separating witnesses. But Maya wasn't among them. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered with shaking hands. Mom? Maya. Where are you? Her voice was breathless, terrified. I'm okay. But Mom, I can't leave yet. There's someone worse inside. Someone they're all afraid of. Salazar's team converged on an abandoned cannery at the end of Coldwater Road. Priya had tracked the van using traffic camera feeds, watching it disappear into the building's loading bay. I stood with Salazar behind the police vehicles. My daughter said there's someone important inside. Someone worse than Owen or Victor. We have reports of a third party, Salazar confirmed. Someone financing these operations. The tactical team moved in. I watched through binoculars as officers entered the building, spreading through the structure. Shouts echoed. Then silence. Long, terrible silence. Finally, movement. Officers emerged, leading people out in handcuffs. Owen Hale, his expression furious. Victor behind him. Several other men I didn't recognize. And then the girls. 5 of them, wrapped in emergency blankets. An officer guided them toward waiting ambulances. I saw Maya. Her braids were tangled, her face pale, but she was walking. She was alive. I ran toward her. An officer tried to stop me, but Salazar waved him off. Maya saw me and burst into tears. We collided in a fierce hug, and I felt her whole body shaking. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. You're safe now. That's all that matters. Behind us, officers brought out another man. Older, wearing an expensive suit. He was fighting the handcuffs, shouting about lawyers. One officer dropped something. A small encrypted drive skittered across the pavement, stopping near my feet. I picked it up. The police took statements from everyone. Maya sat wrapped in a blanket, her voice shaky as she described what had happened. They promised modeling opportunities, she said. Easy money for portfolio shoots. It seemed legitimate at first. Owen showed us his work, introduced us to people. But then the shoots got weird. Uncomfortable. Why didn't you call me? They had our phones. Said if we told anyone, they'd release the photos they'd already taken. Make sure we never got into college. The manipulation made me sick. These men had trapped vulnerable girls, used their futures against them. A journalist named Ethan Cho arrived, someone Salazar knew from previous investigations. He'd been following rumors about the dock parties for months. I need someone willing to go on record, he said. I handed him the encrypted drive. This fell from that man in the suit. The one they arrested last. Ethan's eyes widened. Do you know who that is? No. That's Brandon Whitmore. He donates millions to school programs across the state. Sits on half a dozen charity boards. The drive contained messages, financial transactions, locations. Everything linking Whitmore to the operation. Payments to Owen for consulting. Transfers to Victor's bar as venue rental. Communications showing he'd personally selected which girls to recruit, based on their social media profiles. This is enough to destroy him, Ethan said. The next day, Whitmore's attorney called me. Threatened defamation suits if I spoke publicly. Promised to make my life hell. I didn't care anymore. The school board called an emergency hearing. The auditorium was packed with parents, students, media. Principal Hart sat at the front table, his face drawn. I'd spent 2 days preparing. Priya had helped me build a comprehensive timeline. Every piece of evidence, every connection, laid out in clear detail. I presented it methodically. The forged dismissal slips processed by Sophie, who'd been coerced with threats and bribes. The Hart Foundation account being used to launder money. The owl symbol connecting everything from Owen's photography business to Victor's bar. The peer access badge allowing late-night warehouse parties. The police logs confirming the timeline. Hart tried to defend himself, claiming he'd been negligent but not complicit. The board listened, but their expressions showed doubt. Halfway through my presentation, Ethan Cho's article dropped online. The headline blazed across phones throughout the auditorium: prominent donor Brandon Whitmore arrested in teen exploitation ring. The article detailed everything from the encrypted drive. Photos, messages, financial records. All backed by metadata that proved authenticity. The room erupted in chaos. Hart was suspended immediately, pending a full investigation. The board promised policy overhauls, better oversight, protection for students. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. The legal actions came swiftly. Criminal charges against Owen, Victor, and Whitmore. Civil suits against their businesses and the foundation. Asset freezes, investigations, the slow grinding of justice. I could have pursued revenge. Could have made their lives as miserable as they'd made mine. But that wasn't who I wanted to be. Instead, I created the Docklight Fund. A non-profit organization to support families navigating coercion and exploitation. Money from settlements would flow directly into counseling services, legal aid, education programs. Revenge wouldn't bring back the innocence these girls had lost. But maybe we could help others avoid the same trap. Maya started therapy. We attended sessions together, learning to rebuild trust. She testified against her attackers, but on her terms, when she felt ready. Priya helped establish the fund's infrastructure. Colin, surprisingly, donated the first $1,000 and committed to monthly contributions. We were building something positive from the wreckage. An anonymous tip reached Ethan one evening. Photos of Brandon Whitmore boarding a private jet at a small airport, heading to Belmont City. He's running, Ethan told me over the phone. Can they stop him? Already done. Federal marshals are waiting at the airport. Whitmore was detained the moment his plane landed. The charges expanded to include flight risk, and bail was denied. His empire crumbled as more victims came forward, girls from other cities who'd experienced similar exploitation. The trial preparations took months. Maya's testimony would be crucial, but I'd promised she wouldn't have to do anything she wasn't ready for. One evening, we sat on the porch together. She was quiet, picking at the hem of her shirt. I want to testify, she said finally. You don't have to. I know. But I want to. Not just about what they did to me, but about how we protected each other. How Tessa and I and the other girls watched out for everyone. Pride swelled in my chest. My daughter had survived something terrible, and she was choosing to turn it into strength. Then I'll be there. Every second. The trial was grueling. But Maya stood tall on the witness stand, her voice steady as she described the manipulation, the fear, the way the girls had formed their own protective network. The jury convicted on all counts. Owen got 15 years. Victor got 12. Whitmore got 25, with possibility of more charges in other jurisdictions. Justice. Imperfect and incomplete, but real. 2 years later, the Docklight Fund had helped 30 families. We'd pushed for legislation requiring better oversight of youth organizations. Schools implemented new safety protocols. Maya had graduated high school with honors and was attending college on the other side of the state. She'd chosen to study social work, wanting to help others who'd been through similar trauma. We talked every Sunday. She was healing, slowly building the life these men had tried to steal from her. I stood outside the courthouse one afternoon, watching families enter for a hearing on expanded victim protection laws. Ethan stood beside me, camera in hand. You did this, he said. Changed everything. Maya did this. And Tessa, and all the girls who were brave enough to speak up. But you started it. You didn't stop when everyone told you to. I thought about that terrible evening when I'd seen Maya's face on the news. The fear, the betrayal, the desperate drive to find her. Every choice I'd made had led here. Not to revenge. Not to destruction. But to something better. Something that might prevent another mother from experiencing that same terror. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Love you, Mom. Proud of you. I smiled and typed back. Proud of you too, sweetheart. Life moved forward in unexpected ways. The Doc Light Fund grew, expanding services and reaching more families. Other communities asked for help establishing similar programs. Principal Hart had been fired and faced his own legal consequences for negligence. The school brought in new leadership committed to student safety. Sophie, the office aide who'd been coerced, testified against the operation and received immunity. She now volunteered with the fund, helping other young people recognize manipulation tactics. Tessa became one of Maya's closest friends. They'd survived something terrible together, and that bond was unbreakable. I thought often about the choices I'd made during those desperate days. The moments when I could have given up, accepted the easy answers, let others tell me I was overreacting. But I'd trusted my instincts. I'd fought for my daughter when everyone else told me to wait, to be reasonable, to not make a scene. Standing outside the courthouse after the final appeal was denied, I held Maya's hand. She was 20 now, strong and determined. The girl who'd been terrified in that warehouse had transformed into a woman who helped others find their own strength. Kindness isn't weakness, I told her. It's strategy. And it's how we win. She squeezed my hand. You taught me that. We walked away from the courthouse together, toward whatever came next. The past couldn't be changed, but the future was ours to build. And we were building something worth fighting for.